So, Charity,
Yes, Devin.
today we're really lucky to have a special guest.
Can you believe he's here with us?
I cannot, well, he's not here, but he's calling in,
I know. It's
so that's good.
awesome.
Yeah, Dr. Attia is, I think he's world renowned at this point, isn't he?
He's Peter Attia.
Peter Attia. Yeah, she knows him as Peter. I'm not on a first name basis yet.
I like his name a lot.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So, he's going to go ahead and give us some information today. We're going to talk about Zone 2. It's about exercise and promoting healthy living into your old ages, too.
Yeah, it's very different than what we thought. So this is going to be really fun for us to have some discussion with him about Zone 2, since that's our February challenge.
That's right. Okay. So first, Peter.
Welcome, welcome. We're so glad to have you here.
We are so glad to have you. So first off, we hear you describing how you can do blood tests and all sorts of fancy tests to figure out if you're in that zone 2. But if someone just wants to use their perceived exertion or how heavy they're breathing, how hard they're working, how exactly would you tell them to figure that out, how to know they're in zone 2?
As far as exertion goes, I would say, I can mostly nasal breathe in zone 2, but frankly, it's a bit uncomfortable. But I certainly am not going, the way I am when I'm doing something all out. So I can mostly nasal breathe, and I can talk, but I just don't want to.
It's interesting because we've done those exact tests that you are referring to, and we did them very recently. My zone 2, I know exactly where my zone 2 is from those tests. And we did some zone 2 training this morning. We had a conversation while we were walking slowly on the treadmill up a hill. But I thought prior to having the testing done that my zone 2 was a slow run, probably a 9-minute pace. But that's not the case at all, because last weekend we checked that, and my heart rate was in the 140s and 150s, even running at a 9.5-minute pace. So I was walking at 4.5 up a 7% incline today for my zone 2.
That's right. Yeah. And I think it's similar for me that I could get into zone 2 on the treadmill at about a 4.5 speed. And it was 6.5 or 7 incline. So that's good. Yeah, we both have trouble not coming over zone 2 when running even a 10-minute mile.
Yeah.
So we'll keep working on that. That's part of the training. All right, great. Thanks, Peter.
That was real. So, Dr. T, I'm really curious. You're an avid biker, obviously in very good shape, and you've done all the testing. What's your zone 2 training like?
Prefer to do all of my zone 2 on a bike. And the reason for that is, on a bike, you have watts. Watts are the ultimate metric of output, which is not to say you can't be just as precise when you're using a treadmill. But on an indoor bike trainer, putting my bicycle on this thing called a Wahoo kicker, I get just perfectly precise information.
So I do think it's worth talking about the different exercises that are typically done to get to zone 2. What do you think, Charity?
Oh, I think it's important for people to understand what you can do to get into zone 2.
Okay, let's think about them. Let's think real quick. So a lot of people think of running or jogging, but for most, if you really measure yourself, your heart rate's going to get too fast with a run.
Yeah, so that's probably zone 3 or zone 4.
Yeah, so it's actually likely off the table unless you're special as far as your conditioning. So what's another one?
Swimming?
Swimming is one. Yeah, you'll get your heart rate in there. But you have to be technically pretty decent at swimming, because you have to be able to swim for a lot, as far as, it could be a part of it. You could incorporate that in.
Walking.
Sometimes if you're on a treadmill, you could do an incline. It makes it, you don't have to walk so fast.
Or
right?
You can walk fast and be on an incline if that's where you need to be to get into your zone.
Yeah, where you're breathing heavy,
yeah,
but you can still talk. Okay. What else?
How about like the indoor bike?
Oh, indoor bikes. That is good. Yeah.
I'd say that's probably not a cycling class. That's a little bit much. It's
Yeah.
Probably reading your Kindle or catching up on the news or something while you're sitting on a bike pedaling.
You can multitask pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a leisurely pedal. It's a making you breathe heavier pedal, and your heart rate moves up into that zone of 60 to 80%.
Yep.
Yep.
What do you think about the elliptical machine?
Well, yeah, elliptical. I think that would work. Someone likes the elliptical. Yeah, you could get your heart rate up with that for sure. I don't use it a lot, but you do sometimes.
Mm-hmm. The rower?
The rower? I'm going to try that. See if I could get in there. I'm going to try it this week.
I bet my heart rate's really high on the rower.
All right, so the rower for sure is one.
The stair
stepper, probably slow, because that gets my heart rate up really fast.
Yeah.
If I go slow. That's another good one. So there's so many different exercises.
What about weightlifting?
Yeah,
I
think
think a weightlifting routine.
I think it's interesting. People say that it's not appropriate for zone 2.
Well, I think it depends on how you do your weightlifting. If you're resting 5 minutes between sets or exercises, then no, because your heart rate's going to drop. So you're really only going to spend 1 of 6 minutes in zone 2. So you're not.
Yeah, true.
You won't.
So you have to get good at it, don't you? You have to really know what you're doing and have a good plan for your workout. Maybe we'll try that. I like to try new things. Did you know that? Okay, so that's good. I mean, I think that covers it pretty well. If you're in your own house and you don't have any of that equipment, walking up and down the stairs might get you there.
Take your dog for a drag. A walk.
Yeah, a drag. Yeah. Pet lover here. Okay. Well, so Dr. Attia, what do you think? What's your go-to cardio exercise?
Oh, yeah. Please tell us. We want to know what you're doing.
I do my zone 2 indoors. You could say, God, it must be boring as all hell to ride your bike indoors. And you know what? You're absolutely right. It's kind of boring to be sitting there indoors on a trainer 3 or 4 hours a week, listening to audiobooks and podcasts. The advantage is I have complete and total control over the wattage. And if I were outside riding my bike, that would not be the case. In fact, there is no way I could hold the wattage at an exact number riding outside, even if I were on a completely flat surface. It just doesn't work that way.
So you spend 3 to 4 hours a week on your bike. That's amazing. All right, so
my butt hurts just thinking.
Your butt hurts thinking about it. Yeah, thinking about what exactly?
Do you wear a diaper? Those diaper pants?
I'm referring to something totally different.
So
that's another podcast.
So I think it is important to reinforce here. Dr. Attia, you are someone that's been doing this for years, an avid athlete, cyclist, and you've competed at one point in your life. So this is important to point out. Most people, if they just have their goal, if they're inactive right now, and their goal is 150 minutes per week, that is proven by science and studies to be a great benchmark to improve life, health, and other parameters. So I think just want to reinforce it's not 3 or 4 hours that the average human is trying to get, but it's about 150 minutes is a great start for someone, which is really only 22 minutes a day is what it ends up being.
I bet people are watching TV for 22 minutes a day, or standing around for 22 minutes a day, that they could do lots of other things while they're getting their zone 2 training in, don't you think?
Yeah, it's a great point, right? Since we started doing more zone 2 just in the last few weeks, we've found a good way to multitask, haven't we?
Yeah.
So we find ourselves catching up on emails or listening to podcasts.
Even having a business meeting.
Even business meetings, yeah, where we've sat and gone over some of our upcoming actions we need to get done and talk through them while we're on the treadmill. Because remember that you're walking at a pace where you can have a conversation. You're breathing a little heavy. You see me walking on the treadmill, I'll be sweating profusely, most likely.
I have evidence of that.
Yeah, she sure does. But it's an exercise where you're breathing heavier than if you're going on a leisurely walk. You're pushing it a little faster, but you're unlikely to be running. For most of us, we don't have to run. Again, we've run marathons between us, and we can't stay in zone 2 and while running, really. We haven't trained correctly for that yet.
Yet.
Yeah, so it is. So that's an important point. Although it is 150 minutes a week, it's the type of activity you can, once you get practiced at it, multitask. Whether it means you have a walking treadmill at your desk and you're actually doing work, you're catching up on a podcast, you're on a treadmill watching your show. So instead of sitting on the couch for 2 hours a night, just sit on the couch for 1 hour a night and then walk for an hour a night.
Yeah, and I just remind myself, because it is sort of boring, because it is a little bit of a, it's not what I'm used to. It's not running, or I'm not running upstairs, or, doing something vigorous, that it is impacting my longevity, and I'm burning fat. That's the best part for me.
Yeah, it is. It gives you different benefits than the other exercises where you're breathing heavier, giving more full exertion, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. So Dr. Attia, here's a question for you that Charity probably wants to know as much as I do. When we work out, we typically mix up, cardio, which is running for us, has been until now. We're learning about this zone 2 a little more, and resistance training. So we typically do 3 to 5 days of resistance training, different body parts like chest day, back day, leg day, that kind of thing. So what do you think about that related to zone 2?
Why does this matter? It's my belief that this is the most important place to be training your mitochondria. And if we understand that mitochondrial function and the deterioration of mitochondrial function is one of the hallmarks of aging, then anything we can do to delay that process and enhance mitochondrial function is going to be a benefit.
Peter, that's an interesting answer. So this whole time I should have been working in mitochondria day. Between legs and arms, or when exactly?
No, mitochondria day is obviously Monday.
Oh, Monday. Yes, mitochondria day.
But way to flex your smart muscles there. We appreciate.
Yeah. If we didn't already know, he is smarter than us.
It's just, it's not going to be that much fun for me. Not that this is that much fun, but anyway, you know what I mean.
But let's simplify it here. This answer definitely shows us how important zone 2 is.
Especially for longevity.
Longevity, yeah. It's not about having a six-pack. It does help burn fat. I mean, that is what we're talking about, if it's not clear. Okay, I think we have probably 2 different types of people that are interested in zone 2. It's probably those that do go out and run half marathons or train consistently doing running or biking, some form of cardiovascular activity. What do you recommend for those types versus someone that maybe is a couch potato right now and not doing a whole lot of activity from an exercise perspective? So what do you recommend for someone that has some experience and maybe some conditioning behind them already?
So again, it depends on your fitness, but certainly I would say, striving to have as much time as you can is reasonable, and I generally recommend people start at 30 minutes if they're new to the activity, 45 if they're not.
Yeah, so 30 to 45 minutes you're saying at a minimum for someone that is conditioned and trying to get the most impact from zone 2. That's great. What do you think, Charity, from trying to get to 150 minutes a week perspective, where the studies tell us it makes a difference?
Well, it sounds like putting that into heavier chunks as much as possible is the right answer. But, mathematically, if you're doing it 150 minutes a week, that's about 23 minutes a day. Or, you could do 50 minutes 3 times. So any of those would be okay. Just spending time in zone 2 is what's important, I think.
Yeah. And I think previously we heard some information from Dr. Huberman, our other good friend. He hasn't come on to talk to us yet.
Oh, he's coming next week.
Yeah, next week. Okay.
Oh, actually, it might be this weekend.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. But he talks about just fitting it in throughout your day and throughout your activities, really. So that might have been him texting us there. But so yeah, whether parking at the end of the parking lot and doing a brisk pace as you get into the grocery store, if anyone goes to the grocery store anymore, or just taking a walk while you're on a call, and
I mean, if I
getting your
carried
heart
all
rate
of
up.
my groceries out of the grocery instead of putting them in a cart,
Well, see,
I mean, well, I might be in zone 5 or 6.
yeah.
Never mind.
So you can work that all in, and eventually, once you get in those habits, then it is that much easier. You don't have to go and exercise specifically, but you just make it a part of your lifestyle to take those walks and take the long route or get moving more instead of being sedentary in a chair or on a couch.
Okay, Dr. Attia. So I think previously, before learning all of this, there's some misconceptions around high intensity interval training. So what's your thought on high intensity interval training versus zone 2 training?
But we don't want to confuse the promising or interesting literature on HIIT with the benefits that we see from a more protracted type of activity like this. I would say that they're doing different things, which is not surprising, right? If anyone's ever done, a Tabata versus a steady zone 2, you realize they're as dissimilar as fasting is from eating a Mediterranean diet. Why would we expect those things to be the exact same? So I would say, the question, why should I do this instead of HIIT, is a false equivalency, right? I would say instead, think, why can't I do both? Or whether you choose to do HIIT or zone 5, which are different, think of it through that lens.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So they have different purposes.
Yeah, both are beneficial in their own way. So it's interesting that he only spends time doing zone 2 and zone 5 training, because that's where he thinks he gets the most benefit.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I'm learning here is zone 2, lower intensity, something you could do just while breathing a little heavy, maybe a fast walk, bike ride. Does one thing for your body. And what was that it does?
Burns fat.
Well, yeah, it burns fat. That's great. It actually is. It is the way you keep your body using fat as fuel.
Kind of like your mitochondrial muscles.
Yeah,
right?
your mitochondria uses that fat as fuel in the process. So that's important. And then I think the other thing, which we're not focusing on, we'll see if this turns into a challenge someday, is your VO2 max and your zone 5, which is where you're going all out. And that does something else for your body. That is helpful for longevity as well. But it's more difficult too. Causes more pain, physical suffering, perhaps.
So what you're saying is eventually my walking on the treadmill at zone 2 will turn into running on the treadmill at zone 2.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what we hope to get out of it.
Exactly.
We might have to speed walk for a little while to get our zone 2 to a point where we could jog and stay in zone 2. Because theoretically, you could do that activity indefinitely, like hours at a time.
Which is what we want if we're trying to run a marathon or do something endurance, right? We don't want that lactic acid buildup in our muscles. It'll make it a whole lot less painful.
Yeah, that's what hurts in a marathon or in a long event is the lactic acid buildup, making your muscles tight and sore and cramp and all those things. Okay, that's good.
So what do you tell your patients in regards to how much time they need to spend doing zone 2 training?
So personally, I do about 3 to 4 hours a week of zone 2. And for my patients, I believe that 3 hours should be the target. Understanding, of course, that, most people have a job and they can't do this full time.
But that way.
That's a lot. I mean, when it comes down to it. So I guess the good news is, again, that you start seeing benefits far before the 3 to 4 hours. But 150 minutes, that's our goal for us here in February. We're gonna do that, aren't we? 150 minutes.
Absolutely.
We need to get a target to get after.
Probably just means a couple longer sessions on the weekend, honestly, and then you break up the other 4 to 5 days.
Yeah, think about that. Watch one sporting event while walking.
Exactly.
Binge on a Netflix while walking. It's just a question of whether it's worth it to me, right?
Yeah.
Is
what happens on that show really so important to you that you don't care about your own health.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, just
or living a long time.
multitask. I think there's got to be a way to multitask on this. That's what I think. We get creative and find more hours in our day, because we're not all professional athletes like Dr. Attia's clients and the people he works with.
Really?
No, I know I told you I was a professional football player, but I'm not really. Sorry.
Yep. Built just like one.
Yep. Okay, so Dr. Attia has taught us a lot today, hasn't he?
You're a really smart guy.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming. So that's it. So we hope that this interview with Peter Attia.
Yeah, thanks for being
went well.
here today. It's been really enlightening.
Right. And I've got a few words to look up because you use really big words. So thank you for that too.
He's going to buy a shirt that says I'm flexing my mitochondrial muscles.
Oh, yes. That had to be a big shirt. That's a big word. All right. Well, until next time. Thank you.